I've had to ride this deck a lot longer than what I would have wanted to and caused this tail to wear out a lot more, which resulted in a chip. With a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of know-how, I can bring this board back to life and skate it again. Before I can fix this chip, I've got to remove this whole sheet of grip tape, and that can be a little tricky. I could peel it and just really yank on it, it'll just start tearing and it'll just get even harder to do. Sometimes what can happen is it'll separate into two separate layers where I've got the grip tape side in one hand and a black sticky adhesive film that's even harder to get off. There is an easier way to do it with my mom's blow dryer.
Use a blow dryer along the edge of the grip tape to loosen up the adhesive underneath. This will make it much easier for a razor blade to go along the edge and lift it up. When it comes time to peel off the grip tape, it won't snag or tear. Be sure to lift the back of the blade at an angle. Laying it flat will cause you to cut into the grip tape. Once you're done going around the perimeter of the deck, peel up the edges.
After I've prepped the edges for peeling, I'll use the blow dryer again for about a couple minutes just to loosen up the adhesive underneath. So let's give it a try. Now that was pretty easy. Let's get to work on fixing this chip, shall we?
Scrape away any pieces of grip tape or raised edges of wood, making it easier to reapply new grip tape later. And don't worry too much about adhesive built up, just flatten it down.
At your local hardware store, you can find wood filler for about $4, and it's what we're going to be using to fill in this chip. You can also find wood filler for the same price that comes in a squeeze tube. Now the advantage to this stuff is that you can get between the plies of wood if you need to. The only disadvantage is that this stuff is really hard to squeeze out. So what I'm going to be using is the wood filler that comes in a little tub and a 2-inch putty knife. Now before I get started, I'm going to prep the area with a little wire brush in case it's really dirty. And I'm also going to sand the surface in case it's still a little slick, even after the grip tape has been removed.
After prepping, smother the area with wood filler. With your putty knife, pat the wood filler. This will ensure a bond has been created with the wood of the deck and the filler. A rule of thumb for wood filler is to always pile on more than is needed. This should eliminate any craters that are left behind after sanding.
To help speed things along, I've got a deck right here that has the same type of chip, and the wood filler is already dry. Now I can take my sanding block and start shaping it. If you don't have a sanding block, just use an old cassette tape case. You don't know what a cassette tape case is? Just use your putty knife with sandpaper.
The sanding block makes it easier to hold the sandpaper and will keep the surface area flat on the troubled area. Use your putty knife to scrape excess filler around the spot of the chip. The bottom of this deck wasn't chipped at all, and you'll notice that I added wood filler, and I did it to bulk it up. Be sure not to sand too much of the bottom. Remember, a thin tail is what caused this in the first place. Shape the edge using your hand, it's easier to round it off. It's perfectly okay to sand the edges of the deck itself if you need to. This will also give the deck its nice rounded shape back. Well, take a look at that. Looks pretty good, huh?
There are many styles and methods on how to properly apply a sheet of grip tape to a skateboard deck. Now, however way you choose to do it is fine as long as the end result consists of a clean edge and it's air bubble free underneath the grip tape. Now what I'm about to show you is what I feel to be the fastest, easiest, and most efficient way to apply a sheet of grip tape to a skateboard deck.
Peel off the paper backing completely and grab both ends. Look over the edge and make sure you line up straight and hang the grip tape at least 1/4 inch over the side. Stick one end down. With the opposite hand, keep holding the grip tape, and with the rest of your fingers extended, touch the edge of the deck. Angle the far corner towards you. As you pat or rub your hand across, the angle will eliminate the chance of air bubbles underneath. If you don't want to rub your hand across the grip tape, place the paper backing on top of the rough side of the grip tape and then apply. Hold the deck in the light to check for air bubbles.
Perfect, and I got no air bubbles. If you do have air bubbles, just use the razor blade that you're going to be using to cut the grip tape. Just poke a hole in the center and squeeze out the air like it's a big zit. Next thing I'm going to do is score the grip tape, which is just going to give me a guiding line as I cut the grip tape. Now I've grip taped hundreds of boards and I've never once used a file. You don't have to either. The best thing is just an old screwdriver. Now you don't want to go to town on scoring, and you don't want to use the file and grind it all the way down to the wood. Just one or two, just quick scores, that's all you got to do. To help you while cutting, just lift up the edges a little bit. It'll also keep your hands from sticking to it as you cut.
Take your razor blade and start cutting from underneath. Rest your index finger on the edge of the deck and the blade. This helps the blade from moving as you cut, keeping it in place. And just cut through the grip tape. Any sawing motion will just leave the edge jagged.
Now just take the leftover grip tape and roughen down the edges.
Use a nail or small screwdriver to poke holes for mounting the trucks later.
With my trucks and wheels mounted back on this board, I can now skate it with no chip and a new sheet of grip tape. For about 10 bucks, I was able to get wood filler, a putty knife, and a new sheet of grip tape. Now I can save money to buy rollerblades. Let's go skate.